So first of all, a couple housekeeping things. By way of introduction, my friends up here joining me on stage, two with the Nokia leadership team, Amit Patel and Fayaz Patwal at the end, and Nathan Kim, business development for Winncom, and vice president of engineering for Winncom is Kyle Barnes. So thank you for taking the time to join us. Hopefully we can provide some value and give you some insights on a very important topic that we're all going to be discussing many times this week. By way of introduction of Winncom, for those of you that do not know who we are, Winncom is one of the largest global value-add broadband distributors. We're offering end-to-end consulting services and turnkey solution options. We have over 350 employees in 17 countries, including 50 of them, which are engineers across the globe. We proudly represent 80 plus complementary vendors supporting diverse end-to-end projects and solutions. We have a complete technical and engineering services offering from pre-sales design, pre-configuration, kitting, post-sales, support, and project management. We have an online, on-demand customer education center, as well as certified on-site training courses for our vendors. This is a global map of showing our presence. We either have a warehouse and or administrative facilities in all these locations across the globe. The topic of discussion today is an important topic. I'm sure you've heard it maybe once or twice this week. But it'll be on BEAD. At 30,000 foot level, the broadband equity access deployment is what BEAD stands for. The priorities are in this order. The unserved, which is 25/3, 25 down, 3 up megabits per second. Underserved, 100 by 20. Community anchor institutions, and then non-deployment projects, i.e. adoption. Fiber is the preferred technology. Licensed fixed wireless access is considered reliable broadband for priority. Exceptions apply for alternate technologies such as unlicensed fixed wireless and low Earth orbit satellite. Requirements for the BEAD program are to provide 100 by 20 service, participate in ACP or a low-cost program, minimum 25% match. That's key. So you'll notice a card in front of you. If you would take the time. Technical malfunction. If you would take the time to fill out the card and put it over here for a raffle at the end, we're gonna select a winner for a Nokia Wi-Fi beacon. And then also, if you'll scan the QR code and take the quick survey, it'll help us understand your needs and requirements, so we can be in touch with you. We also have 2 booth locations at the show, so feel free to hunt us down immediately after this or anytime during the rest of the show. So a high-level agenda that we're gonna talk to today is we'll dive deeper into the BEAD introduction, the overviews and timelines. We'll share a lot of insight on an ecosystem, a village I call it, that we have assembled here at Winncom, consisting of multiple partners, vendor organizations, etc. We'll hand the baton to Nokia to talk specifically about their criteria. They have pioneered the way for data certification and a lot of the BEAD requirements from an active component perspective. And then we'll talk and dive deeper into our enhanced services such as pre-engineering services and application services. So initially I'm going to pass the baton to my friend Amit Patel to dive a little bit more into the Nokia aspects of it.
All right, thank you, Mike. So yeah, I've been kind of tasked as, for those that maybe somehow don't know details of BEAD or kind of the status of it, I wanted to give an update on where things are at today and kind of what's coming up over the next few months. First of all, this is a good map to kind of see where different states are in the process, right? As we've all heard, right, BEAD, while it's a federal program, it's being implemented at the state level. Already this map, as you can see at the bottom, it's dated October 4th. There's already a little bit of an update. As of a few days ago, both Alaska and Ohio have actually been approved by NTIA with their Volume 2 applications, right? So that leaves us down to 3 states that don't have a volume 2 submission that's been approved yet. So what does that mean? So volume 2, I mean, the states have been going through submitting information to NTIA about how they're going to give out the money that's been earmarked for their state. Volume 1 was a set of preliminary information. Volume 2 is actually a much more robust set of information that has a lot of details about how they will choose the application awardees and essentially what hurdles they're going to put people through. And so as soon as a volume 2 is approved by NTIA, that starts a clock, a 1-year clock, where those states from that point actually have to come back to NTIA with the companies or entities that they want to award money to. Right? So many states, that 1-year clock has already started. In the case of like Alaska and Ohio, their 1-year clock just started, in the past several days. What that leaves is 3 states that don't have a volume 2 approved yet, and they're sizable ones. Texas being the largest awardee of BEAD dollars, still has to complete their volume 2. Florida and Alabama, right? Those are the 3 that will be remaining. And so this is why, the duration of BEAD, you'll hear different people say different things, right? So while there's a 1-year window from volume 2 approval to essentially working your whole application process and determining who you're going to award money to, only after that, then there's a 4-year period for those entities to actually do their build out. So overall, you could say from a volume 2 approval, that state, by the end of 5 years, will have their BEAD program fully implemented. And then as different states have a different starting time for their volume 2, you can see how this could stretch out over a period of 6 to 6.5 years when it's all said and done. So, so that we can go to the next slide. I got the next slide. Thank you. All right. So the next few slides just have a little bit more detail on kind of where each state is at in their process, right? So once you have a volume 2 approved, there's still some more steps left to go before an application window opens, right? The largest step is probably what we call the challenge process. We've all heard a lot about the broadband maps at the national level. Each state has taken that and made it a state level map to really identify what we call BSLs, or broadband serving locations, which are, within those BSLs, which are the ones that are unserved and underserved, because that's what is eligible to get money for. And so different states are at different levels. Of all the states, the one first out of the gate has been Louisiana. Interesting enough, they've actually done 2 rounds of their application window that have closed, and as of essentially actually it was about just a little over a week ago, their round 2, they announced kind of who some of the players are, or actually which locations are covered. Interesting enough, they have 90% of their locations, roughly 120,000, that entities have actually submitted that say they're going to cover with if they get awarded BEAD money. It leaves about 12,000 that nobody bid on, right? Nobody applied to build. And so the state of Louisiana will now go into what we'll essentially call round 3 of their application window. And this is where alternate technologies can be considered. So in round 1 and round 2, and each state might do this differently, but I think this is a good, kind of example of how most states will work. They'll do rounds where they're really looking for fiber to the home as a solution first. That's really, kind of the focus is on that. If you can meet a BSL with a fiber to the home solution within the cost thresholds, that's the preference, and the scoring weights it that way. If beyond that, if now that they're into round 3, well, actually before round 3, they looked at licensed fixed wireless, right? So for those of you that are using CBRS or other licensed bands for fixed wireless, that's something you could apply with in these initial rounds. Now they're opening it up to alternate technologies, right? And what does that mean? That means unlicensed fixed wireless could be used to deliver the 100 by 20 service. Satellite-based broadband could be used, or even other technologies, right? So essentially the idea is with BEAD, you have to meet every location somehow, some way. So these final X% of locations, will be eligible for alternate technologies. So you know, as you just look through these, I'm not going to read through each of these states, but you know, if I go back to the map, actually, you'll see the states in yellow are the only ones that have opened their application window so far, right? So if you have operations in one of these 5 states, that window is open, or in the case of Louisiana, 2 rounds have already closed. You know, you're already well in the process of applying, right, and going through that process. For the other states that are green, they're in the phase of either their challenge process, where they're still trying to figure out exactly which BSLs, which dots in the map are eligible, or they're in their pre-qualification process, where companies can provide some preliminary information and so they can be pre-qualified, or they're actually, you know, just about to start their application window. And so as I look at my notes, right, the ones that are about to start their application window, you know, next are going to be Arkansas, Arizona, Kansas, New York, Wisconsin, Wyoming, right? So again, that's six more states that we think will open up their initial application window in the coming weeks. And then the others could take quite a bit of time, right? If I go back to, again, Alaska and Ohio, who just got approved, it could be another 3-4 months before they open their application window, right? And at the end, again, I'll go back to Louisiana as the example. Once they figure out how they're going to meet every single location, they will package that information up and they have to submit that back to the NTIA at the federal level. NTIA does the final approval on these awards, right? So all of this process that the state broadband offices are doing is really to qualify and determine who they would want to give the money to. NTIA does that final approval. And so this whole window of applying is critical, right? And I think that's what we're going to be talking about next is what does it take to actually apply for a grant, right? There are focuses on financial capabilities of an entity, managerial capabilities, like do you actually have the know-how to do this, and then technical capabilities, right? So this is where even more so support from companies like Nokia and Winncom come together. So with that, I'm going to let actually Nate talk a little bit more about the support that we could provide.
Cool. Thanks, Amit, for the information on the states there. Now, I'd like to start off by thanking everybody for coming here and to our discussion here. And I would highly encourage you guys to sit down with us at our booth in the exhibition hall if you do want to learn a little bit more about your specific state. And yeah, so here you're going to see our BEAD portal. So what you see here on the left of me is a screenshot basically showcasing how we support our customers with valuable information, in this case from Colorado's perspective. And you can see that on the portal we provide a complete overview of grant summaries, details and guidelines, and you can explore how each state is handling its mapping, defining anchor locations and their project areas. And as we all know, every state is different. Some define areas by counties, by zip codes, and census blocks. But understanding these elements along with the scoring rubrics and the technology preferences is going to be essential in any expansion plan. So we know here timing is critical as states move into the qualification phases. Missing those key deadlines could exclude you from participating in these grants. But before we launched the state-specific information there, the reason that we wanted to launch this BEAD portal in the first place was to showcase our vendors who were compliant with the NTIA's standards. So what that compliance looks like, what we call this is our eco-center solution. So what this compliance looks like is it's pretty straightforward. It's based on 2 key factors. The first one being BABA certification for active and passive fiber, and the second being compliance with specific manufacturing requirements. For example, ONTs and OLTs must be manufactured in the US, and the 55% of components, such as the passive fiber, must also be sourced domestically. So, and this is why Nokia has been such a valuable partner of ours, is because they are a leader in the industry. They're the first to be BABA certified, and they really do provide the best-in-class solutions. So, and on top of that, we also offer all the fiber adjacent accessories needed to complete your fiber opportunity, so really providing you with that turnkey solution for your application. And when submitting that application, there is always a compliance component as far as the documentation goes. So for BABA certified products, you must submit a compliance document, and for non-BABA compliant products like Wave Solutions, You'll still need to provide essential details such as the country of origin, the product description, part numbers, category of exemption, and HS codes. At Winncom, we've leveraged our vast network of vendors to compile a list of these BABA-approved eco-center solutions, which allows us to offer pre-certified products to really simplify your application process and ensuring that compliance moving forward. At the end of the day, our goal is to ensure that you have everything you need to build your network and meet all those compliance standards. And as Mike mentioned before, Winncom has been a global supplier for 30 years. Our extensive experience has allowed us to create this eco-center and provide those end-to-end solutions. And whether it's fixed wireless or active and passive fiber networks, we really do cover every part of that network. So as you can see here on the screen, this is just to showcase a little bit the passive fiber components and those adjacent accessories that meet BEAD's requirements. So if you would like to dive a little deeper into these offerings, we've got a couple booths set up. We could set up a consultation session and really get into that and what you need specifically. So as we discussed earlier, 53 states have already had their Volume 2s approved by the NTIA, and each state has outlined its technology preferences and provided scoring rubrics that detail how applications will be graded. And based on our experience, your strategy will likely fall into one of two categories depending on your state and its topology. So the first one, most customers are adopting a fiber-first approach, but as we all know, fiber is not always the ideal solution for every environment, and if you're deploying fiber, either aerial or burial, if it's not cost-effective, wireless solutions can maximize your application score. So for instance, in high-cost areas where fiber isn't viable, we're seeing customers utilize like Nokia or Tirana CBRS for fixed wireless access, which is a much more efficient alternative. So your project will start with middle mile, most likely. For that, we often see licensed microwave or millimeter wave. We can provide these solutions from a wide array of vendors such as Nokia, Cambium, Ceragon, CI, Siglu, or Intercom, and a whole lot more. So depending on how you want to connect to that tower, we can discuss how to get there. So the next step here is determining whether your asset location is pre-existing or if you will need to build new infrastructure. So the BEAD program does allow for infrastructure development under what's called the DOC de minimis waiver, which covers up to $1 million or 5% of the total grant cost for items like towers or standoffs. And once you've connected to a tower, we typically recommend leveraging CBRS for last mile solutions. So we've worked with customers in more rural areas like West Virginia or Texas, where fixed wireless access has been the preferred technology due to these challenging topologies. And again, our goal is to help you determine the best direction for your project, and all this can be done through our consultation services, which I will elaborate a little bit more after Amit tells us a little bit about something here. So could you elaborate on BEAD's vendor selection criteria and how Nokia is able to meet that criteria?
Yeah. So from a vendor selection criteria, right? As Nate mentioned, right? One of the key things is this BABA compliance. Buy America, build America, buy America. And so from a Nokia perspective, we were the first ones actually in the country to announce alignment with the BABA rules that NTIA set out, right? So maybe I'll step back a little bit, right? So BABA is something that we're all going to see going forward in government programs, right? Not just in telecom, but even more broadly. Specifically for the BEAD program, NTIA was responsible for how BABA will be applied to the BEAD dollars. And what they chose is, given the landscape of equipment and technologies available, they just chose how to determine BABA compliance to the BABA rules, which are, again, independent of BEAD. And so, as Nate said, what they decided is that components like in fiber to the home, the OLT and the ONT, and some of the SFP components that go into these boxes, those would have to be predominantly made in America and with components that are primarily sourced in the US. And so Nokia was the first one to announce that we are onshoring manufacturing of some of this equipment in support of the BEAD program. We're actually building a lot of, essentially the OLT, ONT portfolio is being built in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and then the SFPs, we're working with a manufacturing partner in the Bay Area in California. And so these are the components you actually can see with the U.S. flag next to them that you know, are compliant per the requirements of the BEAD program. So as a part of this, we actually provide actually a compliance, a certification of compliance to you know, entities that are essentially designing and positioning their application using Nokia portfolio equipment. You know, we also have on our website at Nokia a lot more details about these components and the BABA compliance. You know, here's an example of the type of certification letters that we would provide. This is one of the key components of an application, right? So this is the equipment side of it and certifying BABA compliance. Beyond that, I touched on a little bit earlier, right? There's a whole design component. There's a project costing and project timeline component. These are all the kinds of things that, you know, Nokia, Winncom together can support you with for that portion of the application, which is kind of really the meat of how would you actually meet the requirements of 100 by 20 and the latency requirements, and how do you meet the timelines. Some of these things require professional engineering, a PE approval. Again, this is a place where Winncom can actually help as well. So these are some of the key components related to your filing in your application.
Yeah, thanks, Amit. So, you know, Winncom, we offer enhanced services to help you with the BEAD process. And what that entails is, you know, the pre-engineering, the high-level fiber design, the grant writing services, and also the financial services. Our goal here really is to take you, you know, through every step of the way and hold your hand throughout the process. So it all starts with a one-on-one consultation where we identify your goals moving forward, which areas you are going to want to target, and then we go from there and do the design. We you know, loop in our grant writing, and we even offer the post-award compliance as well. So, you know, really throughout the whole process, we're going to be there to help you. You'll have, you know, one point of contact, which a lot of our customers have found to be very useful. So the way we do this, you know, the way we start our consultation is we use our QGIS database. So we identify eligible areas by county. So for example, you can see on the far left side there, these yellow hexagons. So all of those represent about 0.2 square miles. So with that information, those little hexagons, they represent 100 by 20 or below, or if you see on the next one there, there's darker ones, so those represent 25 by 3 or below. So what we look at here is those metrics. You know, how many total locations are there that are eligible for you? How many units are BEAD eligible, right? So from a planning perspective, we help you narrow down the best areas to target, identifying those regions with 80% coverage, analyzing existing technology such as fiber, CBRS, DSL or cable, and reviewing Ookla data to determine average upload and download speeds, so especially in regions where speeds are below 100 megabytes per second. So, and finally, we check for previous funding vehicles like RDOF or capital projects funds, because areas that have already received these funds are generally ineligible for BEAD. So, you know, this process, it's like peeling an onion. You know, we uncover each layer, dive deeper into the data, and until we've honed in on the right counties and regions for your application, we keep doing that. So our high-level fiber tool is the tool that we use that is going to be essential for your grant strategy and network planning. Is this not working? Hold on.
You might have to forward it.
You able to get it? No? Oh, oops. Well, that took away the suspense a little bit. Mike, are you able to?
I mean, everything looks good up here.
No, but jump forward a little bit.
Yeah, we got to go back.
Give it back.
Mm-hmm. Up.
Forward.
Oh, well,
That's the wrong way.
yeah, wrong way. Well, now I don't really have to say anything. You guys know everything already, so.
All right, let's try this.
All right. Yeah, that's the next one there, Mike.
One forward.
One forward, please. Yeah, so back to the high-level fiber tool. So basically, this tool is going to be essential for your grant strategy and network planning, and the way it helps is multiple ways. So we conduct a win-loss analysis essentially allowing us to determine the viability of your application. Then we provide ROI rankings, and then we leverage CostQuest data to gather important household information. So this lets us determine whether areas are served, unserved, or underserved. And then after gathering that data, we group locations into clusters and assign them competitive scores. You can see that here. So we look at key factors like demographics, whether any previous funding has been allocated to those regions, and our system even generates an AI-powered fiber spine that you can see on the right there, which helps optimize your networking route, so it ensures that you get the most efficient design possible. So, to show you what this looks like in practice, we import all that information to our system. Once we do, the system lists and grades the clusters, highlighting eligibility and other attributes. So it also pulls data from the GIS database to analyze terrain and soil types, two factors that can greatly affect deployment costs. And on top of that, we integrate the CostQuest data to identify which end users are served, unserved, or underserved. And using the AI-generated fiber spine, we can optimize your deployment route. So this technology will even support a hybrid deployment model, allowing us to compare and contrast fiber with fixed wireless and help you really build that most cost-effective network that we were talking about earlier. And in many cases, as you know, states do prefer the hybrid model as it offers the best balance between coverage and cost. And by using this data, we can perform a quick cost-benefit analysis to see whether incorporating fixed wireless might be a better option for certain high-cost areas. And then, we asked some important questions to dive deeper into the financials of the project. So, what % of the fiber is aerial versus burial? What are the average installation costs per mile for deployment? What are your premium and standard subscriber rates? And all this data will come together to help us calculate things like the total cost of your project, your cost and the grant request amount, estimated subscriber revenue over time, and finally, we analyze your win probability based on those project details, which we can sort of adjust based on your various project attributes and competitive analysis. So one of the most key and valuable tools that we offer from all of this, you see here, is the 10-year performa. And this performa will include key financial metrics like the revenue projections, the COGS, gross profit, capital expenditures. And then in addition to these core financials, we'll provide the supporting analysis that can include data on subscriber rates, fiber distances, remoteness indexes, and much more. And this will really just give you a holistic view, not just of your network, but also of your project's financial viability over the next decade. So, all of this data, last thing I'll say is it really takes advantage of the tools like CostQuest and the GIS database, to give you a comprehensive understanding of both your network and the financial side of your project. So at the end of the day, our goal is to increase your chances of success by providing a complete and data-driven solution, keeping you informed as possible. So next, we'll discuss here our grant writing services. One of the advantages of working with Winncom is that you'll have a single point of contact throughout the entire process. We offer multiple levels of service to match your needs here. And at the review level, we can review and provide feedback on your grant application. In a hybrid approach, we can collaborate with your team, managing parts of the application process. And finally, we can also do a full management where we handle everything from planning and grant writing to submission and the post-award compliance. So a typical grant application here will include the executive summary, the project narrative, budget narrative, design forms and mapping, and financial statements, which we can help prepare either internally or through a CPA that you work with. And the timeline for a grant application typically takes 6 to 8 weeks. This is really kind of to emphasize, time is of the essence here. And if the financials are complex, especially if they involve a CPA firm, this can extend the process slightly. But regardless of the complexity, I would recommend that you start it as early as possible, and also emphasize that we are here to help you with every step of the way. And a big problem that some of our customers encounter is the financial complications with moving forward with BEAD. So in order to combat that a little bit and mitigate those complications, we offer financial partners through our financial options through our partner Leaf Financial. So instead of paying for the entire CapEx up front, Leaf does allow you to spread the cost over a 3-year period, which gives you flexibility with your cash flow. Makes it easier to manage the financial burden of a large-scale network deployment, and they'll even help you with the 25% grant match. And the grant writing services, professional engineering, high-level fiber design, they're all upfront costs, which we believe could be very useful in mitigating. So I'll loop it back here to the Winncom BEAD portal. I know I mentioned a little bit on it earlier, but it is a really great resource for you to keep track of your project and state funding updates. In addition to the actual state funding information, we also provide a bunch of other resources on there. So the information on the eligible suppliers, Winncom's partners, the state funding timelines, the hyperlinks to each of the state's BEAD websites, the actual PDFs of the volume 1s and 2s of each state, and any relevant documentation, the 5-year plan, things regarding the challenge process. And additionally, you can access a wide variety of the webinars that we've hosted over the past year, a lot of them with Nokia, and these webinars really dive deeper into BEAD-related topics and are going to be an excellent resource for staying up to date on funding opportunities and the best practices. But out of anything, I would highly encourage you to sign up for this BEAD portal, and on there you can also find time that you could schedule with either me or my colleague Alex Cernick to go over your specific situation, your goals, and we'd be happy to provide that consultation the first time around and see what you guys want to do moving forward. So, Kyle, as mentioned earlier, professional engineering is one of Winncom's strongest value adds. Could you tell us a little bit more about what that looks like and how it relates to BEAD?
Absolutely. There's a lot of compliance in BEAD. The scoring, everything's going to come down to, how well you do on each section and your compliance, right? So, in addition to our in-house technical support capabilities, which I'll touch on here in just a minute, we've expanded our team through strategic partnerships. The one that I want to talk about a little bit right now is our strategic partnership with NextGen. With NextGen Engineering, we are equipped to deploy teams across all 50 states, which helps tremendously. It's going to take an army to do a lot of these projects, especially when you're measuring distances, when you're looking at optimal paths, understanding right-of-ways. That's where NextGen really comes into play, right? And NextGen is a leader in this with over 40 years of experience doing this. Some of those capabilities are site surveys, route planning, permitting, feasibility studies, fiber optic design, capacity planning, and again, environmental impact assessment when needed, when required. And they do that through the use of very sophisticated tools such as Civil 3D, AutoCAD, GIS. And as Nate talked about, this is all going to come into play when we talk about the fiber spline, what's actually feasible and actually able to be accomplished, right? We also conduct on-site surveys for both wireless and fiber systems. Again, having the partnership with NextGen gives us a lot more flexibility and a lot more ground to be covered. Some of those, I guess the important part of this is understanding that PEs are going to be required. And again, that's where NextGen they have certified PEs on staff. They can approve plans, and that's going to be very important to the BEAD submittal process. Along with that, they can also do as-built projects. So let's say, over the last 10, 15 years, you've been putting fiber in the ground, but it's not documented well. That's something we can help with our partnership with NextGen. Can really help document what's needed or what's in place. Relocation projects. You might find that some of the fiber you put in maybe wasn't the optimal path. So we can work with you on managing relocation of fiber networks, including field work permits, new designs, as well as traffic control plans. Obviously, fiber to the home projects, not only middle mile, but connecting the different the different entities together. So that's all something that we can help with through our partnership. Splice configurations, documentation. This is going to be very vital from a technical standpoint and technical compliance. And I think they've done a great job. I've reviewed some of the work. It's going to help you in the points in that grading, right? Winncom has made it pretty easy. We've got SKU-based PE stamped services. Drawings are essential for BEAD, as we've talked about, and as they ensure broadband infrastructure projects meet strict engineering and regulatory standards. Many states and municipalities require PE stamp drawings and guarantee safety compliance and building codes. We do a lot of the heavy lifting. With our partnership with NextGen, they're already doing this in many of the states. They know the right people to talk to. They know what jurisdictions have different requirements. This is a crucial part. You can have the greatest business plan, but you've got to be able to execute on it, and it's got to be a feasibility, right? It's got to be very feasible and obtainable. So I can't drive that home enough of how important this relationship is and how important this will be to your bidding process. So now I'll talk a little bit about Winncom Professional Services. Our in-house team has, collectively hundreds of years of engineering experience. We do everything from pre-sales engineering. It can be something as simple as recommending products, right? Maybe you're between two products and you want to see a cost analysis or feature analysis. That's something we can absolutely help with. It can be as complex as you send us a copy of your tower application and we build you a complete BOM. We can look and we can see what the pipe diameter is, suggest mounting options, the coax cable, the Cat5 fiber hybrids, lithium batteries. We can design power plants, whatever your needs are. We have experience, and I don't say that as more of a desktop engineering. I was an operator for 20 years prior to getting into to Winncom. A lot of the staff were operators, right? Public safety, telephone, carrier. Most of our engineers have a lot of real-world experience and can help you possibly avoid some common errors, right? A lot of times you don't know what you're getting into until you get there. Another thing that we've seen wildly successful this year is pre-configuration staging labeling. As people are building these networks faster and faster, a lot of times they're outsourcing some of their labor. So Winncom can actually take your equipment, pre-configure it based on a cut sheet that you provide. We can label, kit, palletize, and ship it to your contractor, and then your contractor can essentially green light your site for you. So this is another service that we offer within Winncom. And I'll talk real briefly about the lab that we're creating. We've got a couple different labs, one of them being in Solon, Ohio, where our corporate headquarters is, but we work very closely with the manufacturers on the products. A lot of times we will test a product before we ever even sell it. We'll get a copy, a device in our lab, we'll put it through its courses, we'll try it with different manufacturers, we'll do some interoperability. And a perfect example of this, and it's going to lead to Fayez. I work very closely with Fayez. We're actually standing up a fiber to the home network in our lab, as well as a remote fiber to the home network in another state, so that we can go through it and we can simulate ONT, OLT configurations, templates, profiles, that we can then make those suggestions to the customer. So again, it's very real world, practical solutions from an operations standpoint. That being said, I'd like to turn it over to Fayez to talk a little bit about the actual equipment.
Thank you, Kyle. Let me go to the next slide. So we're really very proud of our partnership with Winncom, and Kyle mentioned a little bit about the engineering services. What we found is, so Nokia is, we're an engineering firm where we build global world-class products, and we found that our DNAs are very similar, right? So we fit in really well. On the broadband side, predominantly our philosophy, our strategy is what we call broadband zero, which is based on 4 pillars. So number 1 is the zero left behind. This means building products and solutions to connect anyone and everyone, not just people, but devices, IoT devices and systems, through fiber broadband, through passive optical network technology, through fixed wireless, and then when you get into in-buildings and homes, to connect all devices by virtue of Wi-Fi. And you see one of those same blazing fast Wi-Fi products here that one of you lucky folks is going to win and take away. When we get to the second strategy is zero limits. This is using standards-based products and solutions and technology to bring future-proof products. What this really means is that the products and solutions that we bring for BEAD and for other applications are the same that we're deploying everywhere else in the world. These products we're deploying for tier 1s, for large operators. So we don't have any vendor-specific, implementation of technology where if, that causes a vendor lock-in for our customers. I mean, that's one of the key values. The products that we bring to the table, we build our own silicon. We made a decision to build our own silicon that enables us to deliver high speed, high performance on PON, on fixed wireless, and brings cost savings for our customers and brings supply chain resilience because we have our own silicon, so we're not during times of pandemic and other strenuous times, we're not sitting with a tin can with the chip manufacturers waiting for our turn in the queue. Zero Touch is all about automation, and this is something we're working very closely with Kyle in putting our solutions in their lab and emulating and building end-to-end networks that we can use for show and tell, and also for us to be able to demonstrate that these solutions will work and to train our own staff and the Winncom staff as well. Okay?
Faiz, I think it's important to talk about kind of the forward thinking that Nokia has done with their hardware chassis that were deployed 15 years ago through the adaptation of different modules. I think it's important if you want to touch on that a little
Absolutely.
bit.
So, and that's a good point. PON technology is evolving, and I think I'll go into the next slide here. Today, 10 gig XGS-PON is the most widely deployed PON technology. Most PON shipments are in XGS space. And then we've got 25 gig PON that was launched a couple of years ago by Nokia and is starting to gain momentum. What Kyle is talking about is 25 gig did not exist 15 years back. However, our products are future proof, and we're able to slide a card into chassis that our customers deployed 15 years back for GPON and able to deliver 25 gig PON on those same chassis, right? So there is no forklift. And along the same lines, the current hardware they're putting out is we're building the backplanes for 100 gig. Now most folks here, 100 gig is futuristic. Most CSPs, who are deploying XGS, we're not, utilizing a full 10 gig either in the homes. However, our prediction is next 5 to 8 years. I mean, there's going to be a tremendous push for bandwidth in the homes, not only for consumption in entertainment, but also IoT devices and the two-letter word that Nathan mentioned, AI, right? So AI is going to drive a lot of bandwidth through for consumers and for enterprise and businesses. That's where 25 gig PON comes in. We are partnering and helping some of our operators in monetizing these home networks by deploying 25 gig on the same PON network, on the same fiber that has GPON and XGS-PON operational today. So 25 gig fits in really well. It's available today. It's starting to be used for mobile backhaul, for data center connectivity. There's a ton of data centers that are opening up in rural America. You look at the stock of NVIDIA, right? All the GPUs that are being shipped. There's not enough data centers in big cities, and so with 25 gig, it fits in well for data center connectivity. Okay, 50 gig is we've done trials, but we don't see commercially available for the next several years. And then 100 gig timeline is kind of at the end of the decade. We're looking at 2030. I'm going to talk a little bit about the 25 gig strategy and then 50 gig and 100 gig timeline. So 25 gig PON is the last linear progression in the current PON technology. 50 gig, as I mentioned, we've done many demos, but for it to be commercially viable, there's going to have to be silicon chips manufactured, because with 50 gig speeds, you get into some of the nonlinear effects on fiber, like dispersion and amplification required on the transmitter for the received signal integrity. And so the chip manufacturing is going to take a couple of years. So we're kind of looking at 2027 or later for 50 gig to be commercially viable. Okay. Now I talked about all the applications for 25 gig PON, but what I want to share, highlight, is that 25 gig PON is being standards based. We're able to deploy and coexist currently with GPON and XGS-PON. So when you deploy 25 gig, you're certainly absolutely not impacting any of your future plans. If we look at under the hood, the wavelength plans that are based on standards, 25 gig fits in really well and can coexist even in the future with 50 gig and beyond technology. In the case of 50 gig, currently the wavelength plans will require 50 gig to be on the downstream side, and the upstream side would require for GPON to be decommissioned. So for wide scale 50 gig deployment, we don't see that happening anytime soon because GPON is still there, and most of our customers have no plans to decommission GPON for the next several years until really the market demands more bandwidth. So that's another I think key point that I want to highlight. Okay, Kyle, it's back to you.
No, it's actually back to
Mike.
Mike.
All right.
Summary? Oh, yeah, I can take this.
Oh,
Sure. Well, yeah, as I was saying before, I mean, with our program, we'll go over, we offer a whole array of services when it comes to BEAD, the pre-qualification, the pre-engineering, grant writing, financial assistance, the supply chain and logistics. We have a whole eco-center of products for you guys, but I'll reiterate it one more time. Highly suggest that you guys schedule a consultation meeting with us, whether it's at the booth today or set something up for the next coming weeks. We can do a Teams meeting and go over some of your goals and see how we want to move forward. And I'll leave it to you, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a very important very important aspect of this is you can't be late. Once the deadlines pass, they pass. So if there's any questions, every state's different too, as David expanded on and talked about. So this is pretty much the conclusion of it. I'm going to say a few other things. If you haven't had a chance to scan the QR code, I'll leave this up or I'll come back to it afterwards. More importantly, Kyle vets every product that runs through our lab. This one's been vetted. It's used in his home right now, so that tells me enough to know that it's a wonderful product. So somebody lucky in here is going to win it. Your odds look pretty good from up here from this point. So please fill that card out, drop it in, and we'll pull the lucky winner out here shortly. The QR code, the same QR code there is here. And I'll come back to that in case you turn your card in and hadn't had a chance to fill out the survey. So Nate just expanded on this, so I won't beat on it anymore. But please feel free to grab any of us anytime now. The end of the show, we have 2 booth locations. Don't worry about which one you get to. We'll get you to the right place. Come by and see us and make an introduction. Schedule a call with us. This is we only have 1 booth number on here. We actually have 2. So with that, I'll turn it over to see if there's any questions out there. Somebody's got to have a question. I know Howard can come up with one if there's not one before it. Any questions? Comments? No, you're too quiet. Okay. So I'll turn this back and leave the QR code up here. If you could fill out the card and drop it in here, we'll give it a few minutes to the conclusion of our time here, and then we'll draw the lucky winner.
Thank you guys again.
Thank you again for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Right on time.